Hold up. Before we begin, today's video is brought to you by Vite Ramen. I initially didn't throw a sponsor on this one, but it got a little long, so hey, congratulations. You get to listen to me talk about noodles for a few minutes before listening to me talk about whether Palpatine did or did not have sex. Very fun. Vite Ramen is an amazing noodle company. You guys probably already know about them. I've been hawking their wares for very long now. That's because I love their product and I love the company. So much so, we actually developed our own flavor, Massaman Curry. It's amazing. But the great thing about Vite Ramen is regardless of which flavor you choose, you will be getting quick, healthy, and delicious food. I cannot overstate that. I've got so much Vite Ramen in my house, it's absolutely diabolical. Anyway, if you purchase Vite Ramen, take solace in the fact that you're not only eating healthy, but also supporting a great American-owned business. They treat their employees really well. They treat others like me really well. Living wages everywhere. I'm just personally really proud to be affiliated with them. You can find a link in the description and use code ECKHARTS for 10% off and EasyHealth24 for free shipping. Yes, you can combine those. On with the video. Hey guys, this is Justin. Hello and welcome to another video. This is probably going to be a short one. I say that, but knowing the subject matter, this could get a little bit out of hand. We'll be talking today though about a really interesting interview that I'll link down below from Empire Magazine, which they conducted with the Emperor himself, Ian McDiarmid. And if you were on Twitter a couple of days ago, you probably saw how Empire teased some big announcement with the hello there picture that ended up being sort of prequel exclusive content. This came just right after that. And in this interview, however, they focused not just on the prequels, but also on the Star Wars sequel trilogy. And right off the bat, Ian McDiarmid says something that may be controversial, but I actually agree with. I'll just read a bit of what he says. Of course, he was dead at the end of Return of the Jedi, and frankly, I think George thought he'd killed me too, but JJ thought it'd be a good idea. I wasn't going to argue with him, that being his return. Still, if there's anyone who might be able to pull off a return from the grave, it might be Palpatine, the article says. And McDiarmid says, I felt that Palpatine always had a plan B, probably a plan C, D, E, and F as well, and he was an expert in cloning. The article continues by saying, by pulling the strings across all three Star Wars trilogies, he points out Palpatine now stands as the ultimate cinematic villain. The thing that I'm most pleased about, and you know, the only thing that came to my head when they asked me to come back for The Rise of Skywalker is that every single act in all of the Star Wars franchise is either directly or indirectly tied to the character. That is total evil, and that's strangely satisfying as an arc. You know what? Despite the issues with the execution in The Rise of Skywalker, I wholeheartedly agree with this. After episode 7 especially, I was fully of the belief that Palpatine should be brought into the series. Even after episode 8, when the seeds really weren't there, I was excited to see him teased for episode 9 because to me, I love the idea of, okay, you killed Palpatine in his human form, now you have to go to hell and finish him off once and for all. And that's actually something The Rise of Skywalker sort of did with Exegol. You've banished Palpatine sort of from the real world, from ordinary space, now you're going to the worst place ever to finally stomp out the seed of evil. And however many issues I do have with The Rise of Skywalker, like I mentioned, I do think that's a compelling plot thread, and if anything, it makes the lack of execution in some parts a little more disappointing. In a past video, I talked about how I really would have liked for them to take the hell imagery of Exegol even further, to make a place which is just notably strange and bizarre, just wrong in a sense. I still think Exegol is pretty cool though, but for me personally, I would have notched it up to 11. I would have had the final journey to confront ultimate evil, just absolutely terrifying, which also for the record is how I remember episode 6 as a kid watching it. Like, I didn't like the scenes in Return of the Jedi when Luke went to the Death Star because they were terrifying, especially when Palpatine started electrocuting him. The inclusion of Palpatine too, I think, makes it feel like episodes 7 through 9 aren't just like a secondary story which happened after the first 6, but they're more of a complete saga. So from that angle, yeah, I think he's right, and I really appreciate him saying that in this article. I know the return of Palpatine is not universally loved, but for me at least, I think it was totally the right move. Back in the day, there was a Star Wars YouTuber called Wayward Jedi. He started on YouTube at about the same time that I did, and I remember he had lots of videos where he was analyzing from a philosophical, storytelling, hero's journey point of view what the sequel trilogy was going to do. Keep in mind, this was before episode 8 came out. He correctly predicted a lot of things, including the eventual return of Palpatine. If you watched any of those videos, I'm kind of curious. Let me know down below. He was a good dude as well. Anyway, the next big topic of discussion was, of course, the big reveal from episode 9, Rey's heritage. The fact that Rey is not only a Palpatine, but the direct descendant of Emperor Palpatine himself. Well, sort of. Palpatine touches on this issue, the real Palpatine, Ian McDiarmid, by saying, please don't pursue that line too vigorously, but yes, he does have sex. It's a horrible idea to think of Palpatine having sex in any shape or form, but then, of course, perhaps he didn't. As the article points out, although the film itself is somewhat ambiguous on this point, and of course, McDiarmid doesn't look at the extended universe material because why would he? He even says maybe it's all to do with midichlorians, and don't ask me what those are. Yeah, the actual lore itself doesn't have Palpatine creating Rey's parents or Rey's mother or father through normal means, through sex. And this is a change that I really don't like because it convolutes things needlessly. People have been making other people the same way forever. The best look we actually get at Rey's specific parentage comes from the episode 9 novelization and also Shadow of the Sith, the latter of which I actually did cover on my podcast Tapcaf Transmissions. So Rey's father, Dathan, is not a direct heir to Palpatine. Rather, it was a failed clone, or he was a failed clone of Palpatine. He was not failed because he was weird or non-viable. He just simply was not powerful whatsoever in the Force. Anyway, he would escape from Exegol and he would have Rey in the old-fashioned way. And I just don't like this because it means that Rey is not really Palpatine's granddaughter. She's more of like his half-daughter or his direct daughter. Like if Boba Fett had a son or daughter, what would they be to Jango? It's sort of the same thing here. In my mind too, it also kind of lessens the whole lesson, I suppose, of episode 9 about choosing your own destiny. Like Rey is meant to be a Palpatine, so she's trapped in this cycle of violence and she's destined to become evil, but her own father was not evil. He directly rejected evil himself. I just think there's a million other ways they could have handled this better, and if I were to make one small change to the lore, it would probably be this. I say small change because although it is obviously big for the character of Rey, so far it's not factored into a whole lot aside from that Shadows of the Sith novel, which has a part talking about how he escapes Exegol and how he hides Rey on Jakku. The Rise of Skywalker also makes the series quite similar to Jedi Prince, which is a young readers series we did also cover on Tapcaf Transmissions, in that we learn of Palpatine's heir, Triclops, who, like Dathan, was not evil and also produced a non-evil heir. Instead of Rey, however, it was Jedi Prince Ken. I don't know, I do kind of wonder whether they didn't want Palpatine to have sex just because he's such a vile creature, and I guess the implications could be somewhat disturbing, but I mean, there are also many other vile, evil women that Palpatine could have mated with. People always point out Sly Moore, and yeah, she's creepy. I think that would have been fine. I also just think the point of these movies, of Star Wars movies generally, is to tell lessons that are applicable to the real world. Strand casts aren't real. Failed cloning experiments aren't real. Now, I'm not saying that you can't have unreal elements in your storytelling, but if you've got the ability to touch on, something that's important to a lot of people, that's their heritage and how negative things are passed on, why not just go with Palpatine laid pipe, he had a child, that child had a child. How does that work out? Anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know yours down below.